Jeff, from a game planning, strategizing standpoint, how long have you kind of had an idea that Jair probably isn't going to be able to make it back? It's not like it came up, oh, we're not going to have Jair back.
Like make it back for good?
Yeah.
Well, I found out just recently. So, I mean, Ja was practicing. He was trying to come back. So, I mean, there's always hope, right? I mean, he was out there last week still trying to practice. So I kept that in the back of my mind and, was hopeful we'd get him back. He worked for it. He kept pushing himself and, it didn't work out. So now it's definitive. It's not there anymore. So now certainly there's no more, thinking about what we would do differently if he were in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How disappointing is it then that it is definitive now? And what does it change for your defense knowing that you're not getting a guy like that back?
He's a great player. And, I feel for him and, him knowing that he'll miss not just this game, but, the games in the playoffs and have the opportunity to be with this team. So more than anything, I feel for Ja. And, we've been counting on the guys who've been on the field. They've been doing a really good job. So there is no looking back or what ifs, and it's just full speed ahead with how we've been playing and each week, how we can evolve and get better. But I'm proud of the guys that have been in because I do think they're getting better. And, that's the nature of this league. If you look, even last week, I mean, we were down at the safety position again, and Zane, who we were excited about playing, who, hadn't really played much, he goes down. And, it's got to be someone else has got to be ready to go. And it's around that. It's like that everywhere around the league right now. So you just got to keep going forward.
Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was either you or Matt earlier in the year said, to have to go from playing the nickel all week in practice like Javon did and then, move to safety is a tough ask.
Yeah.
But yet you asked him to do it
I know.
past week. What did you think?
Yeah, it's really hard. And it's not just hard on him, it's hard on Key. This week what made it really hard is, Bullard just got back to practice. He wasn't even practicing. So he was limited in practice. So the reps we gave him were at the nickel position. We were fired up to get him in at the nickel position. We moved Key back out the corner and, felt good with Zane at safety. And, just like that, it's, Ryan Downer and I are talking on the headset. What direction do we want to go? Do we want to make the move? Who do we want to play safety? Who do we want to play nickel? And, now X is playing next to a guy that he hadn't practiced all week with and communicated with. And Key's awesome. He has to jump in and play the nickel position. And we had a lot of things game plan specific for the team we were going to play. And that's hard. But it's not an excuse. I mean, is it harder because he's a rookie? Yeah. I mean, that's really hard. And I give him a lot of credit because he hadn't done any of that all week. And he played physical and he played hard. And, I said to him after the game, I mean, dude, I got your back 100%. Like what we've asked you to do, coming off an injury, switching positions again. I mean, it's going to make him better in the future, but it's not an excuse. Does it make it harder? Sure. But we need to be able to adapt and move forward, and whoever's ready, we got to go play. But, yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't keep happening.
You feel for where his best spot is in the long run? I mean, do you like that nickel spot for him maybe in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I think with him, and I had this conversation with him just as he was getting ready to come back and play, I just think, I think he's got so much versatility and value moving him around all over the place, whether it's nickel, dime, safety, getting him closer to the ball, blitzing him, getting him involved in the run game. He's got coverage ability. I just think he's going to be like a guy that you can do so many things with down the road once he really has a great grasp and a feel for everything. He's a talented guy who's strong, physical, and you don't have many guys in this league who can do that much. So it makes him very, very valuable. And I think he's starting to see that and feel it and embrace it. You need a little bit of time to really get him where he's comfortable because he's been injured too, so he hasn't been practicing very much.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you'd mentioned from week 11 when you last played the Bears that a lot of the defenders were positioned well in that game but didn't necessarily make the plays. So what have you seen from your run defense where they're at now compared to last time you guys played?
Yeah, that game was, and there were some similarities in that game to how I felt this past week. And it comes down to in that game we did a really poor job of setting edges. I mean, the ball got out us on the perimeter in that game, and we gave up a big score, and we gave up some perimeter runs in that game, and even on screens where we were ducking inside. And I think from that moment, I think we've for the most part. We've done a really good job at correcting those things, and I give our guys a lot of credit for that. And again, this week, last time when we played them, they just made the coordinator change, so it was kind of going in blind a little bit. And after playing them and seeing them more on tape, I think we have a little bit better feel for, what we're going to get. But we need to go out and execute. And but I think our run defense, even last week, I thought our run defense played well. I think our run defense could have played better last week than we did, and hopefully because of that, we show them some of the clips where some of those plays got out on us. They hit a stretch or a toss that went big down by the red area that, that was disappointing that got out because we didn't set the edge. They hit a screen on us in that game where we had two people at the point of attack, like ready to vice it, and we ducked it, and that got out on us for a touchdown. And those are mistakes we can't make if we go forward. So I got to coach it better, and then we got to go execute it better. And it's almost like that Bears game where we got to reset and do those little things right. And that's like we were just watching the film, and there's like we always do right before I come in and get to see you guys. But like that's the stuff that I watched in practice today that was awesome to see again. And we've made a big deal and we emphasized it. And it's the details like that that are more important than anything I could call, And that's you're absolutely right. And I'm getting fired up talking about it because that can't happen again.
Do you think Eric Stokes has played this year and especially of late?
I think he's gotten better. He's competing in the run game. He's been physical. I thought he challenged those good wide receivers in that last game. I think the more reps he gets, he's getting more comfortable and he's getting back into it. And we're going to need him down this stretch.
Jeff, what have you thought of just the season that Rashawn has put together and just kind of the meaningfulness of seeing him finally make that Pro Bowl?
Yeah. I didn't even realize it was his first one. So congrats to him and X and Kenny and Keyshawn and all the other guys on the team that, that were selected to the Pro Bowl. I know that's a great honor. And, I think the one thing when you talk about RG and everybody keeps looking at is probably, and you're probably looking for the same thing, are the pass rush numbers there, right? I don't even know how many sacks he has, but that's probably the question. But that's not the entire game. I mean, we've played pretty good in the run, which we had to do. We have to play good run defense to play good defense in this league. At least I believe that you do, and I think he's a huge part of that. I think he's disruptive in the run game. He sets edges, and if you look at our total sack numbers for the year, we're pretty high up there. I couldn't tell you what they are, but he has a lot to do with those rather than just his numbers, right? Rushing as a unit, rushing together, keeping the quarterback in the pocket. Some of the games that we run, sometimes he's the one who comes free, sometimes the other guy does. I mean, obviously he's been impactful or people wouldn't have voted for him, those that are watching the tape. I love the guy. I think he works really hard, and I think he's embraced his role, and he's gotten better and better. And I hope that continues because we're going to need him.
Hey, Jeff. Speaking of X, I was talking to him a little while ago, and I thought it was interesting that two guys who play positions that some had devalued in him and Josh make a Pro Bowl. And remember when you had your first press conference and Pete impressed you with all of his post-safety knowledge?
Yep.
What is it?
I do remember.
Why do you see that position so valuable when maybe other teams don't anymore? And how well has he filled you said you described the perfect guy that day. It sounded like you almost described X based on the season he's had.
Yeah. And the cool part is I'm just telling you, he's getting better and better, and he's young, and I don't even think we've seen what's ahead from him, and I mean that. Just as a leader, he's grown. As a teammate, he's grown. I think as a person, he's grown. And it's hard. You're one in a new place and in a new scheme, embracing new coaching. And I mean, what it does is, and what you've seen, I mean, the interceptions we can pick at. He hasn't had interceptions in a while. But when's the last time you've seen anyone throw the ball up in the air near him? I mean, we had one ball thrown up in the air in the middle of the field against us in the last game, and we weren't correct in what we were in. But it wasn't where he was. People aren't taking shots where he is. And I think that's huge. I think it takes away explosives. And when you do throw it in his area, he's going to get it. And a lot of the run defense, a lot of the runs haven't broken the explosives because he's getting them down on the ground. And we're able to do different things in the pressure game because he can get in the box and fix and make things right. And then I can also put some more stuff on the back end because of how smart he is, where we can get in and out of checks, almost like our offense does, when I sit down with him and go over the plan and we talk about certain calls versus this or that, and not to get into specifics, but he's almost like the quarterback checking the play at the line. I mean, so that's huge. And like I said at the beginning, I'm so glad that he's here, and I just think the best is yet ahead for this guy because he's young and he's hungry and he practiced today. We had like a full speed practice today and we finished to get more reps. We did like a jog through. If I showed you the tape and how he bends and finishes and takes punches at the ball, and then you say that's a Pro Bowler doing that, I mean, that's such a great example for everybody else to see. It's awesome.
Getting back to Stokes from Matt's question, the guy's got like everything you could ever want, skill set wise, right? He's got the height, the speed, and all that. He had a couple of really bad years because of injuries. How do you think, I mean, is he getting close to maximizing that? And what is the next step? Because he has played well. What's the next step for him, do you think?
I think it's just overall consistency, you know, whether it's in man or zone, it's going out there every single rep and competing. And, the guy hadn't been targeted a whole lot either, right? And I think in his opportunities as of late, I think he's playing pretty good football. And I think the more he plays, the more consistent it will get. But we're going to need him in this stretch right now.
Jeff, how much of the times that Edgerrin Cooper shot gaps, is that prescribed, or is he just taught when he sees it, go for it? You know?
He's an instinctual player, right? So, for the most times, he's where he's supposed to be. And, if he feels like he can go through a gap and make the play before it gets into his gap, I mean, there's times where he does that too. We've pressured him a lot, which helps because he goes and gets the football. But for the most part, he's where he's supposed to be. I think in other times, he's an instinctual guy who gets there probably quicker than most. You know what I mean? But I get it. I totally see what everybody sees. If you turn on a TV copy of that guy, you can make a 12-play cut up, and it's just like, whoa. The way he runs people down, the way he weaves under gaps and shows up behind the line of scrimmage, right, which is what you're talking about. I mean, it might look like the ball's going over there, and somehow he comes inside and beats it and dives and makes the play before he's supposed to. He's got a lot of natural ability, and he's getting better and better. He played the most plays he's ever played last week. I think he played 70 snaps, and that's the most that we've ever put on him. And I think he's going to grow from that. And, I think what you're starting to see, too, is we are going to be able to, bit by bit, as he grows, put him in some pretty fun positions. Another guy, what a great draft pick, and what a great person. He loves ball. He's got a really bright future.
Two more, please.
He felt after the game that the times that he was blitzing, or at least went on the edge, it kind of felt like they were sliding to him. I don't know if that's true or
It
not.
depends on protection. They maxed up a bunch in the game, and they were in some 7-man protection trying to block everybody, keeping the back end, keeping the tight end in a lot of the time. So, I don't know if they're sliding to him, but they were certainly aware of where he was.
I was going to say, so putting him on the edge at times, is that one of the things you can do to maximize his pass rush?
There's a lot of things we can do to maximize his pass rush, and I think we're just scratching the surface. We did some fun things with him today that he looked pretty good at doing, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. We'll have to wait until we see it on film one of these days. But I just think in time, like you asked about Board, right? You just got to be careful with how much you give him early, and then it just eventually you fill up a glass and everything just spills out. So you just got to go slow with it. And I think he's progressed well. He's another guy, though, that he's been injured and he hadn't practiced as much, and now he's starting to get into it. So hopefully that consistency goes.
You mentioned a great draft pick. Goody always says, hey, good players can fit into any scheme, but when you came in and to be able to get players right away, for him to give you guys on your side of the ball, some guys like that, how much did that help make the transition for you as coaches easier, knowing that these are guys that are high picks, free agent signing, designed to help you guys right away?
Yeah, I think Goody and that whole staff did an unbelievable job. In our first year, all the newcomers that have come in and played, whether it was through free agency or, you know, the picks of the guys that you mentioned, I mean, you get Javon and you get Coop and you get Evan Williams. I mean, you're talking about, and then Hop, who hasn't really played as much, right? KT, who's kind of been injured, and some of those other guys like Kalen King. Yeah, I think they did a really good job. And I think, I mean, we're a pretty young defense right now, and all those guys are on the field. There's times you got 3 or 4 rookies out there, and then you combine that with some of the other guys. I mean, I don't want to get ahead to what's ahead, but that's a good group of young players. So I give him a lot of credit, and I appreciate it, and I hope he can do it again this year. Yeah.
Jeff, do you have time for one more?
I do.
We wasted time on my
Because
wardrobe.
my wife went to Pitt, so because of that, I'll give you. And I got married at Pitt. You're not even a Pitt fan. He's just wearing a shirt.
You talked about Stokes. You talked a little bit about Bullard. We asked you about Ja. I know you're worried about DJ Moore and Keenan Allen this week, but you look at the teams that are in the postseason. It's a bunch of teams with good tandems and trios. What gives you confidence that with CV and Eric and that crew, that you guys have what you need to get the job done?
Turn on the tape and watch CV compete against Justin Jefferson and the way he didn't back down. Now, Justin, I think, is the best receiver, if not, you know, in the NFL, right? Watch CV press him at the line. Watch CV compete against him. Watch CV not back down to him. Now, Justin made plays, and Justin's going to make plays. But what gives me confidence is the fight in that group. And what gives me confidence is the way our defense is hungry and has played together. And as we get healthy and we get these guys back and how hard we play and how hard we attack the ball, we're going to win games and play good defense because we're going to do it together right now. And it's not going to be because of one guy, but they fight and they play hard and they tackle and they compete. And I'll take that any day of the week. And that's why I'm confident this group is going to play well down the stretch.